Okay, what I'm going to do now is show you how to set up your 2-point perspective name drawing. Unfortunately, my document camera doesn't get high enough to see the whole sheet of paper, so I'll move things around. But the very first step we're going to do is we're going to find the halfway mark on the side. And the way that we do that, it's a 12-inch side, so that means we need to find the 6-inch mark. And we'll make a line there, and then I'll move over to the other side and I'll measure down from the top 6 inches again, and then I'm going to connect these two lines with a nice horizontal line. So this is what we've been calling our horizon line. Remember, when you do 2-point perspective, your vanishing point, so my vanishing point left is there, my vanishing point right would be on this side. The next thing we need to do is draw a vertical line, and our vertical line is going to fall halfway. So at the top of my paper I'm going to measure over 9 inches. So it's an 18-inch piece of paper, so halfway would be 9 inches. And then I'm going to take and connect those two marks to give it a nice vertical line in the center of my paper. Okay, so remember, this is going to be the corner, and our dimension is going to go off to the right and off to the left from this corner point. So we need to connect this line with our vanishing points now. So I'm going to take and connect the top of this line to my right vanishing point. I'm going to take and connect the bottom of this line to my right vanishing point. And I'm going to repeat the process with my left vanishing point. So I take and I connect it to my left vanishing point. And I take and I connect it to my right, or sorry, the top of my line to my left vanishing point. Oops. And there I have my basic starting point for my 2-point perspective. The next thing I need to do is figure out how many letters I'm going to have in my name. So again, I count out the letters. I have 6 letters. If I divide the number by 2, if I get a single number, that means I have an even number in my name, and that means there'll be a space. So for my name, I'm going to do 3 on one side, 3 on the other. Some students have chosen, when they've had an odd number, to split the letter in the middle. That actually gets pretty complicated with the 2-point perspective. So my recommendation, if you have an odd number, to put some on one side and 1 more on the other side. So for example, if I had 7 letters in my name, I do 3 on one side, 4 on the other side. So the next step that I need to do is figure out how I'm going to divide this into 3 spaces. So I can measure it out, and I see that it's 10 3/4 space here. So I could do the math and divide that by 3. The other option that I have is I can just guess. So I can eyeball it and decide how much space I want per letter. So looking at my measurements, I think 3.5 will be a pretty good measurement. So I measure 3.5, measure 3.5, and that'll leave me almost to the end. Okay, so if I want to make sure everything's nice and lined up, I can either line up my ruler, or I can measure the same thing with the edge of my paper, or I can measure the same measurements at the top. I'm going to add a nice vertical line there. Again, a nice vertical line. Oops, almost didn't line that up. There. So this will be where I put my A. This is where I'll have my U. This is where my D will go. Now I need to split this side of the paper. I'm going to try and keep a similar measurement. So 3.5 and 3.5. And again, 3.5 would be right up to the edge here. So I'm going to go ahead and make my nice vertical lines on each of those points. But I could have also just looked at it and kind of guessed what would have been a good spacing for each letter. That could have worked too. So this is where my R, my E, and my Y will go. So the first thing I want to do, and I'm going to go ahead and add the edge of my letter here. I'm going to stop this one a little short, just so that way there is a side to my A versus going all the way to the corner. So remember, anytime you start to add your letters, when you're working with 2-point perspective, you can have vertical lines and horizontal lines. Any other lines need to connect to your vanishing points. Now, when you're just drawing out your initial shapes, we're not talking adding dimension yet. When we're drawing our initial object shapes, you're going to use the vanishing point on the side that the letter is on. So my A, my U, my D, they all fall on the left side, so I'm going to use my left vanishing point over here. And I'm going to start by creating my vertical lines. So I'm going to try and keep these similar in size or similar in width. So this would be one side of my A. This would be the other side of my A. Now I need to add the top line of my A. And yes, it's going to look a little strange at first, but remember, these are going back in space. So we want it to look like things are going away. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add my center line. So again, can't just draw a horizontal line. We're using our vanishing point. Whoops, again, my ruler moved a little bit. So this is the start of my A. So now I can go in there and erase the lines that I no longer need as part of my A. Now, if this is not feeling quite as curved as you would like it, if you want to connect where you're seeing some of those lines and make this feel more curved, you could do that. But again, that's not true perspective, but it helps to give more of the illusion of the A there. Next, I'm going to work on my U. So for my U, again, I'm going to start with a vertical line on either side. I'm going to try and keep them similar in size. And then I need to add the line for the bottom of my U. So again, I line up with my left vanishing point, and I go ahead and I draw the line for the bottom of my U. And again, I can go in and erase any of those lines that I no longer need. So again, if I want this to look more curved, I can use those guidelines that I just had. You can probably still see them a little bit, and create the illusion of more of a curve versus just doing the flat U there. So there's my A, there's my U. Now I want to add my D. So again, I'm going to start with my vertical lines to create the back of the letter, to create the front of the letter. And then again, I need to continue with my horizontal line here. And I'll kind of follow what I was doing for the line of the A. So here's the start of the D here. I don't need my horizon line. The horizon line really is most helpful when you have like an M or something that only comes down part of the way. So I'm going to go back in, erase some of these lines I no longer need. Oops, I'm going to leave that there so I can see how to angle my lines. And then I'm going to go ahead and erase those extra lines. So now you should be able to see my D in 2-point perspective. Now things are going to switch as I start my R-E-Y. So for my R, again, I'm going to need a vertical line on the left. I'm going to need a vertical line on the right. And then I'm going to use my right vanishing point to add the other lines that I'll need. So to create the top of my R, I use my right vanishing point. To help create the center of my R, I use my right vanishing point. And I want this to come down a little bit up below the horizon line there. So I can now go back in and get rid of some of these lines that aren't needed. Again, if I want to create more of an illusion that this is curved, I can create some parallel lines using those intersecting lines as guides. And for this part of my R, I might even add some diagonal lines here so it feels more like an R. Okay, for my E, this one should be pretty easy. Again, I start the back side of the E. This should be familiar to some of our practices that we did. Then again, I need to create the 3 spokes of the E. So there's my first one. Now I'm going to do the center. So a little bit above my horizon line, a little bit below my horizon line. I have my E. And then I need to create the bottom section here. So there's my E. So I go ahead and I erase my horizon line that's running through it. And I erase my extra lines that I no longer need. For right now, I'm going to leave this line until I get my Y into place. Okay, so time for the Y. Again, like my A, I want to go ahead and add an ending point for my Y, just to make it a little bit easier than going all the way to the corner. For the Y, I'm going to start by creating my center line here. Now, unfortunately, for this one, we can't really use our vanishing point, so we're going to more just kind of guess. I wish I had a better explanation for this one, but we're just going to try and find points between our intersection points and get our Y into place. We'll definitely use our vanishing points when we start to add dimension to our Y. So I'm pretty much done with my guidelines. So I'm going to go back through and erase any that I don't need. So here I need these. These are part of the E, but I'm done with the ones on either side of this part of the E. I'm done with this one on this side here. But if I look at the U and the D, so it looks like all my lines are correct now. So this is what it looks like just having your letters in 2-point perspective. Just the start of them. We're going to add dimension next. You'll see that in the next video.